Brothers and sisters, welcome once again. My name is Akbar Muhammad. I'm the international representative of Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam. And I have a home here in St. Louis, so I'm a St. Louis resident. But I want to do a few things. We want the stage ready when the minister comes. I know tomorrow is a work day, and most of you who have been to Muslim meetings know that our shortest subjects are 3 hours. So we're going to try to move things so that when the minister hits the door, he can come to the stage. But I want to personally thank St. Louis for showing your support of Minister Louis Farrakhan. He has not been in the city in nearly 4 years now. It's 4 years since Minister Farrakhan spoke in St. Louis. And the difference of this meeting is that Minister Farrakhan said until the March on Washington, October the 16th, 1995, that he would not take any speaking engagements. But Brother Minister Donald and the staff had been asking the minister please to come to St. Louis. And Minister Farrakhan has a special love for St. Louis. And maybe because his name is Louis Farrakhan and this is St. Louis, but he has a special love for this city, and he told Minister Donald he would honor his invitation. So I think that Brother Minister Donald and his staff that were persistent in this invitation, and it's because Minister Donald knew the people of St. Louis. Wherever he traveled across this city or East St. Louis, they would ask him the question, when is Minister Farrakhan coming to St. Louis? So I want you to give a round of applause to Minister Donald and his staff because they made it happen this evening. Now, we know that the convention of the blacks in government is in the city this week. Their convention actually opened today, and Dr. Ben Chavis, who will be with us in a few minutes, will speak at their luncheon. They have a lot of powerful people coming in to the city, so we want to welcome them to St. Louis. And the way that the political wind is blowing in America today, your next meeting may be blacks out of government. So we have to work with you very closely to make sure that you stay in government. And this is why you have to support this March on Washington by Minister Farrakhan, where he wants to register at least 8 million people who are not registered to vote, to make sure that your next meeting is not blacks out of government, but will still be blacks in government. Also, I'd like to mention in your program, we have a card, and we need you to fill out the card so that we can get information back to you on the March on Washington for 1 million black men. We want you to participate, so please do not leave it, but hold on to it. Next on the program, I'd like to introduce the pastor of the Progressive Missionary Baptist Church. And before Pastor Smith comes forward, I want to say to the ministers and pastors who are in the audience, we want to personally thank Pastor Smith because he's opened his church for the ministers to meet with Minister Farrakhan tomorrow morning. And the March on Washington for 1 million black men cannot be successful without the Christian church and the involvement of our Christian ministers and members of their congregation. So Pastor Smith has sent out a letter throughout the city to open his church up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the ministers, pastors over church, ministers and assistant ministers, Muslim imams, and if we have any Hebrew rabbis who belong to the African Hebrew Church, you're all invited tomorrow to exchange with Minister Farrakhan and give him an opportunity to give you an overview of the Million Man March on Washington. So let's bring on Reverend C.V. Smith with a warm round of applause. Thank you very much.
I want to say good evening to everyone. That's right, I am a Christian. Amen, and I greet you the way that I do. but we're glad to be here today. And certainly this is a great time for all of us. I want to thank Minister Akbar for bringing me forth at this time. This planned coming together is all about us being ourselves, but coming together for a sole purpose. There's been a lot of questions about the Million Man March, and there's been some concerns. My page has been going off, the telephone's been going off, the messages have been coming in. One of the biggest concerns is to go to Washington with the minister, do I have to become a Muslim? And that is not what is about to happen. That is not in any kind of form to happen. It is about unity. It is about bringing black men together for one sole purpose. And it seems to be very easy to bring us together to put ourselves down. It seems to be something that we will buy into when it seems as if it is something that is not good about the black man. But this is a positive move for the black man to bring 1 million black men together in our nation's capital to show a form of unity. And there's so many that are kind of questioning, why go to Washington, D.C.? Why not do it in our own hometown? But we know that in our own cities, even St. Louis, we don't have the black unity that we need. So we need to go somewhere together to prove to all the nation that we're able to do this thing. Not only that, there are some other questions that pose that why all together at the state capital, at the nation's capital, and why not go separately? Well, that's what we've been taught to do, go separately to things. We go separately to water fountain, we go separately to stores, we go separately everywhere. But God did not ordain that we would have to go separately. God made us all equal and the same. And so we need to learn how to be ourselves, and we need to learn how to unify. And when we look at unity, unity just simply means to take a lot of maybe singular things and bring them together to make them one solid thing. So it doesn't matter what you bring together. It can be sticks, bricks, it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be sheets of paper. If you bring enough sheets of paper together, it becomes a hard, solid object. And so I can see this vision, I can see this opportunity that is before all black men, that if we were come together in Washington, D.C. on the appointed time of October 16th, and if we would all gather there behind the minister, how powerful we would look to our sisters, and how powerful we will look to this nation, and then how much self-esteem that we will build up within ourselves. So I encourage you, my brothers, to meet us there in Washington, D.C. There are some that say that I can't find it biblically sound. Well, David said in the 23rd Psalms that the Lord would prepare a table before us in the presence of our enemies. But I want you to know, my brothers, sometimes we have to go where the enemy is. The enemy is in safety. The enemy does not have to come to you. So the Honorable Minister Farrakhan has taken upon himself to say that I will stand in the gap, that I will be that minister that will unite all black men and bring all black men to the nation's capital for one sole purpose, to show that black men are standing up straight, that black men are together, that black men can assemble without violence, that we can assemble without on our way chained to prison, that we can assemble in dignity, that we can come together for a sole purpose and a sole reason. So I recognize the writings of the Psalms, and I recognize all types of scriptures, and I study the word. But I know that one thing we cannot leave out, and that is the opportunity for us to unite together. We have been separated for so many reasons, but I want you to be aware, brothers, some of the causes for our separation have died in the dust. Some of the reasons that we have not been able to unite have faded away in time. But we are causing our own dimensions of separation. We're causing our own dimensions of backness. So all we need to do is come together. So brothers and sisters, I'm going to Washington, D.C., October 16, 1995 for the Million Man March. Let me hear it. Are we going to be behind the minister? Let's be there behind the minister.
Reverend Smith, thank you very much. Next, we have our brother Zaki Baruti, and the St. Louis community knows his years in the struggle, his commitment to this struggle, and his strong commitment as a teacher. He's a brother that's traveled throughout the world with me. He has a wealth of experience. So we want to hear from brother Zaki Baruti. Let's bring him on with a warm round of applause.
First of all, in the name of Allah, the one God to whom all praises are due, the Lord of the world, the master of day of judgment, to whom each and every one of us shall return for judgment. I greet you in the Arabic language of peace. Assalamu alaikum. St. Louis, how are you doing this evening? I know we're getting excited, black men in St. Louis. There's a call out, and the call out is that black men must rise to the occasion because the hour is late. Our children are in need of us standing up for them because our children are languishing in the prisons across America, because our children are dying at an unprecedented rate on the streets of America. Our children are dying in the schools of America. So it is time for us to stand up and bring about a new day, a new beginning for us as a people. And I stand before you proudly to say that as a representative of the Universal African American People's Organization, as well as a representative for the Alliance of African Organizations, a community-based number of organizations that have come together for unity, that we stand shoulder to shoulder with Minister Louis Farrakhan on that fateful and impending day. As the Reverend said, are you going to be there? The hour is late. We're about to enter into the 21st century. As we enter into the 21st century, God is judging us. And that judgment shall be, are we going to rise? The challenge is upon us. We encourage you to stand with the minister, to bring about this new day, and make God to magnify God. So in that name, I would also like to encourage you to support Brother Ben Shavers tomorrow at the government rally in downtown Adamsburg. But also I'd like to say that our organization will also be bringing in another powerful national leader, and that will be Bob Law. And he will be dealing with the subject, countering the conspiracy to destroy effective black leadership. We all know what's going on. All we have to do is look at what they're doing to Vervis Jones. And what they're doing to Vervis Jones, they've done to all black elected officials. So it's time for us again to get up and be about a new day. On that note, again and again, let's be in Washington, D.C. to bring about a new day. Assalamu alaikum.
I would like to call forth a brother that the community knows to read a proclamation. And I want to say that Minister Farrakhan had an excellent meeting with our mayor today, Mayor Freeman Bosley, and he had an excellent meeting with our mayor from East St. Louis, Mayor Bush. It was an excellent meeting, and in that meeting was, we call him Alderman Bosley Sr., and there was a proclamation issued from the city of St. Louis to Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, and I'd like to call Alderman Freeman Bosley to the rostrum to read that proclamation. Let's bring him on with a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, St. Louis. Is anybody out there? I said, good afternoon, St. Louis. I don't know whether Ahmed was speaking for too many people when he met with the minister in Chicago when he promised 50,000 from St. Louis would come. I don't know how many others are going to be here, but 49,999 might not make it, but this one is going to be there. You need to know that there's nothing stronger than an idea whose time has come. And like a baby, after conception, no matter what you do, he's coming at the end of 9 months. And so is this march coming off on Washington. The members of the Board of Aldermen passed a resolution honoring this march, and it says, whereas it has come to the attention of this Honorable Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis of the anticipated convening of over 1 million African American men in Washington, D.C. to hold a men's educational conference and engaging in dialogue and participate in activities related to issues affecting the African American family. And whereas this convening is also designed to illustrate the seriousness of African American men in uplifting their families and ending the blight, despair, and degeneration of the African American community. And whereas this conference will hold workshops on economic empowerment, love, and responsibility, as well as mentoring, community involvement. And whereas in recent history, no conference of such proportions, scope, purpose, or magnitude has been convened specifically for and by African American men. And whereas recent social and political indicators and scholars' reports that African American men face a multitude of problems and issues that endanger both the quality and longevity of their lives and in this community and country. And whereas scholars have delineated that such problems and issues affecting and endangering the African American men ultimately impinge on the safety and security of the African American family. And whereas a number of African American men have taken to heart the words of African American political activist Martin Delany, that our elevation must be the result of our self-efforts and work of our own hands. And whereas this conference and related activities is further designed to build a national network of African American men at every level to address the issues affecting the African American community. And whereas this conference and related activities is supported by a wide range of national, state, local African American organizations, fraternal orders, associations, and leaders, including the Reverend Ben Chavis, and was conceived and introduced by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who will speak on this matter in St. Louis on August the 21st, 1995. And whereas a plethora of St. Louis African American clergy, organizations, and individuals are supporting this conference, which is advocating the developing of a national plan of action to improve and elevate the African American family. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Honorable Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis goes on record as wishing that these African American men well as they travel and convene on issues affecting our communities, and further commends them on their desire to improve the conditions of our lives, and further salutes their courage and zeal for action, and also instructs the clerk of this Board of Aldermen to create a fitting copy of this resolution so that to this end it may be presented to those deemed appropriate by its sponsor. Introduced this 18th day of August 1995 by the Honorable Terry Kennedy, Alderman of the 18th Ward, the Honorable Velma Jean Bailey, Alderman of the 19th Ward, the Honorable Mary Ross, Alderwoman of the 5th Ward, the Honorable Bertha Mitchell, Alderwoman of the 4th Ward, Honorable Irving Clay Jr., the Alderman of the 26th Ward, the Honorable Bernice Jones King, Alderwoman of the 21st Ward, the Honorable Sharon Tice, Alderwoman of the 20th Ward, and Alderman Freeman Bosley, the Alderman of the 3rd Ward. It was adopted this 22nd day of September 1995, as attested by the signature of the Clerk of the Board of Aldermen, Fred Steffen, and signed by the President of the Board of Aldermen, Francis G. Slay. Thank you. Minister Akbar.
First of all, I want to thank the City of St. Louis on behalf of Brother Minister Farrakhan, and I know the kind of heat that comes on city officials when they give a proclamation to the Nation of Islam, and I think that our brother stood up. It's principle that we're talking here and not what one believes. So let's give all of those alder men and women a warm round of applause. Thank you very much. Next, we have a proclamation that will be read from the city of East St. Louis. And being that they don't have a diverse constituency, they have a few white people in the city left, but their constituency is home folks. And they have a proclamation to read to Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, and it will be read by Ishaq Shafiq, who is the Chief of Staff and the Executive Assistant to the Mayor, Brother Ishaq Shafiq.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, all praise is due to God, the Lord of all the world. And we cannot thank Almighty God enough for blessing us with a divine leader, a divine teacher, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the valedictorian of his class, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Assalamu alaikum. Before I read this, I would like to ask all of the residents from East St. Louis to please stand, because this proclamation is being issued from the city of East St. Louis across the water. Office of the Mayor, East St. Louis, Gordon D. Bush Mayor Proclamation, honoring the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Million Man March, August the 21st, 1995. Whereas, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, National Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and leader of the Nation of Islam, has been a champion in the fight for freedom, justice, and equality for black people for over 40 years. And whereas, we give thanks to God for extending his mercy to us in these troubled times, for he has sent us a clear voice and a right guide to direct us at a time when black people are once again under attack, and even though we have become a house divided amongst ourselves. Whereas, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has called for 1 million black men to march in Washington, D.C. on October the 16th, 1995, as a day of atonement for the black nation in an effort to improve our condition and to motivate and mobilize us to action. And whereas the city of East St. Louis, Illinois, under the stewardship of the Honorable Gordon D. Bush, does hereby express its support of the minister and the Million Man March. Now therefore, I, Gordon D. Bush, Mayor of the great city of East St. Louis, do hereby proclaim August the 21st, 1995 as Million Man March Day in the city of East St. Louis, Illinois, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the city of East St. Louis, Illinois, the 21st day of August, 1995. Gordon D. Bush Mayor, Alzada C. Carr, City Clerk, Charlotte R. Moore, Treasurer, and from the 42,000 black people in the great city of East St. Louis. Assalamu alaikum.
We want to thank the city of East St. Louis and thank Brother Ishaq Shafiq. See, he got his training in the Nation of Islam. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Thank you. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to also mention briefly, in New York City, Bob Law, who you hear on the night talk show, is our coordinator for the Million Man March in the city of New York. And he will be here in St. Louis next Saturday, August the 26th. He's going to deliver a keynote speech at a spiritual and political rally for the Universal African Peoples Organization, whose Governor General is Brother Zaki. So make sure you come out to support Bob. He's handling the march in New York City for Minister Farrakhan, and he's doing a fine job. Now I'd like to introduce a brother who is going to speak to you right before we bring on Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he's a brother that has been through many trials. And there's a verse in the Holy Quran that says that do men and women think that they would be left alone on saying that we believe and not be tried? And certainly Allah will try you as he tried those before. And I must say that Dr. Ben Chavers has been tried in many ways. And he has been tried in ways that many of us cannot imagine, but his commitment to the redemption of our people has been steady and straightforward. This week, when I was in Atlanta and learned that he had lost his mother, he flew to North Carolina to do what he had to do and flew right back to Atlanta to hold a town meeting at the at the King Center in Atlanta, Georgia. So he's here with us. He's our national director for the March on Washington, October the 16th. He's been sweeping across this country, and he said that he wants to get everyone on every level involved in the march, and especially our Christian brothers and sisters. There should be no gap, and he's the best man to fill that gap. He is out of a job at the NAACP, not for the things that they said, because he dared to bring other people to the table, and he dared to bring Minister Louis Farrakhan to the table in the struggle for justice for our people. So he's with us tonight. Let's receive Dr. Reverend Ben Chavers.
Thank you. St. Louis. All right. First, giving all honor and all praise to God Almighty. This is the day that the Lord hath made, and we're called to celebrate what God has done, what God is doing, and what God will do. Assalamu alaikum. You know, the Lord moves in mysterious ways. Last year at this time, I was the national director of the NAACP. This year, I'm the national director of the Million Man March. And I want to say, that this year, this month, I'm a freer black man than I was last year this time. I'm a freer black man. And I want to thank publicly the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for his vision and for his leadership, because it is time for the black man in America to stand up, for us to straighten up our backs and to take greater responsibility for the care of our family, the care of our children, and the care of our community. When the black man in America stands up, it will change the conditions of our people. And let me say to black women, we love you. Black women have already been out there. And we know in order to get 1 million brothers, we're going to need 5 million sisters to help us stand up. To help us stand up and be strong black men. And so this is something for brothers and sisters, men and women. We want black men to register to get on the buses. We want black women to register to help black men get on the buses. St. Louis and East St. Louis and throughout this metropolitan area, key to the mobilization of our people. This national holy day, Day of Atonement and Reconciliation. Disunity within the black community has impeded our progress as a people. And so when we are now organizing and mobilizing ourselves and building greater operational unity within our community, it has deep implications, positive implications for the future of our people. I'm not going to be long tonight because the man who we've been waiting for is coming soon. But I want to say, as a Christian minister, that my faith in Jesus Christ is not weakened because I'm working directly with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It's important. that I challenge black Christians. Black Christians and black Muslims should work together. We serve the same God. Old Pete Wilson out in California, popping the whip on black people, dismantling affirmative action. Old Bob Dole, old Newt Gingrich, old Phil Graham, all of them. We got news for you tonight. The liberation of black people is not in your hands. The liberation of black people is in God's hands and black people's hands. It's in our hands. The liberation of our people is in our hands and God's hands. And so when we go to Washington, we go as strong black men. We go as upright black men. And we stand there in behalf of an upright people, men and women. But before we go and make demands on the government, and before we go and make demands on corporate America, we first must have some internal healing within our community. We first must reconcile our differences with one another. All of the self-destruction and self-hatred, the crime and the violence, the crack cocaine addiction, alcohol abuse and self-destruction. We must stop the self-destruction in the black community. That's our responsibility as an upright people. That's our responsibility. I thank God that in my 47th year, I've lived long enough to see us put God back in our movement. For too long, there have been so many ideological debates where we've debated ideology without getting clear on our theological connection to the Creator. I just want to end on this point. If we keep our hands in God's hands, if we not only march on Washington, but march here in the streets of St. Louis, march in our communities, march in our homes, atone for the wrongdoing, atone for not doing what is right, and on that day, 1 million of us will march on Washington, but we want 39 other million throughout the United States not to go to school, not to go to work, to have a day of absence from American racism. We must take one day to deal with our internal unity as a people. And we must take one day to realign ourselves properly with God Almighty. And so we march not only for ourselves, but we march for our ancestors. And we march for the generations to come. God bless this gathering tonight. And may God's grace continue to fall afresh on everybody here. Because when the morning comes, we got some work to do. We got to wake up some of these sisters and brothers that have gone to sleep. We got to wake them up. And we got to keep them awake as we move forward. Thank God for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Thank God for the Nation of Islam. And thank God for all of you who have gathered here tonight as we not only remember black history, but we make black history. Assalamu alaikum.
Dr. Ben Chavis, one more time. Thank you, Dr. Ben Chavis. Now, brothers and sisters, the moment that you've been waiting for is approaching, and I will not tarry. I just want to make a few comments, introduce Brother Minister Donald Muhammad, who will introduce Minister Louis Farrakhan. First of all, my appeal went out and I got a response. I was praying, but Brother Mike Roberts, who we all know, and the mosque especially knows him because we rent space in his building, that's where we meet at, but he is donating $25,000 worth of advertisement on WHSL TV, channel 46 for the March on Washington. Mike Roberts, please stand. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I hope that this is a source of encouragement because I already said, Dr. Suggs, we need the black newspapers. And we hope and pray that other newspapers, I know it takes money to make things happen, but this is an investment and you will get it back tenfold. So, and while I'm standing here, before I introduce Minister Donald, I must say this because the Nation of Islam is 65 years old in America. Minister Farrakhan's work this September is going into the 18th year. And there's brothers and sisters in this community. When Minister Farrakhan called me and asked me to help him, and of course I said, yes, sir, I started in this community. And there's brothers and sisters in this community that helped in that effort. And we don't want you to ever feel that your work is forgotten. It is not forgotten. Those who were in the nation and helped, and those who helped from the outside. There's a man who is not with us this evening. I called him, but he's working tonight. And that's Dr. Eugene Mitchell. He's been through his trials and tribulations. But when we were on our back and didn't have one dime to publish the Final Call newspaper, I told Dr. Mitchell about our problem. He said, no problem, I will print the paper this week. And I hope his son, who is now a lawyer, is in the audience to let you know, your father may not have never told you, Butch, but to let you know that he helped Minister Farrakhan when we first got started. So Dr. Mitchell and that St. Louis August contribute money that helped us to get where we are today by printing the Final Call without asking us for one dime. Let's give them a warm round of applause. And even though Dr. Mitchell has been through his trials, make him to know that this is his community. Make him feel comfortable. I love the brother. When I was on my back and sick and didn't have medical insurance, he took care of me. He introduced me to doctors because of his love of what Minister Farrakhan was doing for black people around this country. So we can never forget those. There's ministers of Minister Farrakhan who are sitting in the audience, Brother Robert, Brother Gregory, those brothers who helped in the nation, who helped build the mosque, who worked night and day. We want you to know you have not been forgotten. You have done your duty to help Minister Farrakhan to get where he is today. So we applaud you and we thank you for all of the help that you have given to the leader of the Nation of Islam. So let's give him a warm round of applause. So, brothers and sisters, now is the hour that we've been waiting for. I want to say this. Many of you, when we took the public collection, didn't know what you wanted to do. But I hope that, Mike, that you were encouragement, and others will be an encouragement. At the end of this rally, our ushers will be in the aisles. They will be standing by. And after you have heard our minister and you feel the overwhelming commitment that you want to make, you feel it in your bones listening to Dr. Chavers, that you want to be a part of what we're going to do on October the 16th, and it's for black people in America and black people throughout the world. I hope that you will contribute to that effort. When you buy the tape of the lecture tonight, that is a contribution to that effort. When you stop at the table with the Nation of Islam's products, that is a contribution to that effort. So make sure you do not leave tonight without helping us to reach that goal. At this time, I'd like to introduce the brother who will introduce Minister Louis Farrakhan, Minister Donald Muhammad. And Minister Donald Muhammad is a hard-working minister in the Nation of Islam. Not only does he care for the mosque, he cares for a family. He works on a job, and he's been committed since the day that he put his foot in Muhammad's mosque. He is the reason that we're blessed with Minister Farrakhan tonight, because it was his lobbying, his letters, his call, and the minister accepted to come to St. Louis when he said he wasn't speaking anywhere else. So we thank Brother Minister Donald, and let's bring him on with a warm round of applause, Brother Minister Donald Muhammad.
I love you too, brother. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I would like to greet all of you tonight with the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for coming out tonight and supporting the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in this Million Man March rally. We thank all our special guests, those who we have mentioned and those perhaps who we would not have time to mention and recognize you, but we want to let you know that you're still at the bottom of our heart. That's right. The time is getting late and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm really lobbying for Minister Farrakhan to really come on so he can give you the message tonight. But what you have proven by coming out tonight, brothers and sisters, you have proven that there's a new spirit in the city of St. Louis. You have proven all praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. There's a man in town. Let's just give it up for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. All praise is due to Allah. Oh, what's the...
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, Allah, the creator of all things, the revealer of all truth and the sender of all prophets. To him alone do I submit and seek refuge. We thank him for Moses and the Torah. We thank him for Jesus and the gospel. We thank him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of God. I am eternally grateful to Almighty God Allah for his intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who came among us and searched among us for one who would deliver his message to us. And he raised among us a divine leader, teacher, and guide, his Messiah to us, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the man who taught me what I know, and the man who gave me the example of the human being that I would like to become. I am eternally grateful to Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I greet all of you, my dear and wonderful brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. To Minister Donald Muhammad and all of the believers of Mosque number 28 and Mosque number 28B, St. Louis and East St. Louis, words are inadequate to express my deep appreciation for your labor of love to bring all of these many wonderful brothers and sisters of St. Louis and East St. Louis out tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To Minister Akbar Muhammad, my longtime friend, companion, and fellow laborer in the struggle, who initiated the second rise of the Nation of Islam here in this wonderful city of St. Louis. We are very honored and happy to have Brother Akbar with us, who is our international representative headquartered in Accra, Ghana, in West Africa. Brother Akbar Muhammad. Where's Akbar? To this distinguished dais of community leaders, activists, members of the clergy, members of the mayor's family and staff, members of the state legislature, reverend clergy, brothers and sisters. I am so thankful to Almighty God, Allah, for the privilege of being here with you tonight in St. Louis in the new Kiel Auditorium. As I look, I think you did a wonderful job. And you nearly, I think you did a wonderful job. And you nearly filled this place. I don't know how many it holds, but it looks wonderful, and you look beautiful. You are a beautiful audience. Beautiful. But so much time has already been spent. I think we need to just get right on down to business. Now, I didn't prepare a speech. You know, I usually like to speak from the Spirit, but I didn't recognize our national director of the Million Man March, my friend and brother and companion in struggle, the Reverend Dr. Ben Chavis, whose words I thoroughly enjoyed, as I know you did, Reverend Dr. Chavis. Now, why are we here tonight? You certainly came out tonight to hear something that would lift your spirit, lift your sights, and give you hope of a better tomorrow. My dear brothers and sisters, we have been looking in the wrong direction for what we actually need. We have petitioned the United States government. We have gone to school because they told us that if we had education, education would do it for us. And we have a degree of education, and many of us have excelled in the finest institutions of this land, and still our people are not free. And some have said, yes, we need education, but we need the vote. And so many of our brothers and sisters suffered, even were killed, to get us the right to vote. And since the Voting Rights Act, we have voted in thousands of black people in positions of political power, only to find out that though there is power in politics. That power has not produced a change in the masses of our people for the advancement that we as a people need to make. Now, we're not saying that education is not valuable. We're not saying that politics is not valuable. Both are valuable, but they're not the answer. Then some have said, well, we've got to have economics. And, you know, without economics, we're nothing. And I don't care who got the vote, it's who got the money. Well, that sounds pretty good. And there's a lot of truth in that. But I have met a lot of powerful black people who have tremendous amounts of money, and they're empty inside, and they're not free as the poor black man. And this is true. You would think that many of those whom you admire most among us, that have the most wealth, you would think that they could make some independent decisions. But I have found that our giants, in comparison to their white counterparts, are midgets. And their white counterparts will crush them if they don't act in a certain way and speak in a certain way. They are not free enough, so a rich slave cannot free a poor slave. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever played football. I never played the game, but I love it. And the art of football is the art of tricking your opposition. Make them think the ball is here and the ball is there. And it seems like our oppressor has been tricking us as to where the ball is. They told us the ball was if we acted better, if we got education, if we got the vote, if we got money. But no matter what kind of thing we have done to please them, in 1995, the government of America is rolling back the gains that men and women of goodwill of many different people have suffered to bring about in America. Now America says enough of that. Roll back the clock. Turn back their advancement. So today, if you want to go up in the polls, just smack black folk down. And you will increase your popularity among an increasingly conservative white America. Go ahead, we have been petitioning the wrong source. Well, Farrakhan, what do you suggest we do? Well, let's reason together. Let's talk about it and see what we should do. Now, if we open our Bibles and our Qur'ans, both of these scriptures, the truth of each book corresponds, bears witness to the truth of the other. Truth, whether it's from the Bible or the Quran, is truth. Truth hugs itself. Truth kisses itself. Truth is in love with more of itself.
So how can you have truth and I have truth and not be in love with each other? How can we? How can we say I am Christian and another say I am Muslim and start arguing with each other? What are you arguing about? I really don't know. Why are you arguing? Well, my man is Jesus. Well, good. That's my man too. You said, but I thought your man was Muhammad. He is my man. You said, well, how can Muhammad and Jesus be your man? Well, how could Ben Chavis and I be your brothers? God is not limited to any one individual. Well, just a minute, Farrakhan. Now, I'm getting a little confused. Because you people believe that Jesus was only a prophet. And we believe as Christians that Jesus is God. Well, let's reason together. We are not going to fall out. You hungry and I'm hungry. You out of doors and I'm almost out. You got education, don't know what to do with it. Your children catching hell, some of your family on drugs, some of mine on drugs, some of your family in jail, some of mine in jail. We got a people going to hell and we are arguing over whether Jesus is God or whether he's a prophet. There was a Jesus who was a prophet. And a prophet is one who speaks and sheds light like the moon, reflecting the light of the sun to the earth in the absence of the sun. A prophet reflects the light of God to the people in the absence of God. But there's another Jesus that said, I am the light of the world. Now that Jesus is not a prophet. That Jesus is what the Quran calls Masih or Messiah. And the Messiah is not a prophet. The Messiah is a man in whom God is dwelling. Listen now. This Quran speaks of Jesus as a prophet, but it also speaks of Jesus as Messiah. And the work of the Messiah, let's look at the work from the Quran. The work of the Messiah is open the eyes of the blind by God's permission. Make the deaf hear and the dumb speak by God's permission. Raise the dead to life by God's permission. Take clay and form it into a bird and breathe into it and it becomes a bird by God's permission. Teach the people what foods to eat and what foods to store in their houses. Let me tell you something, brother. When you can open the eye of the blind and make the deaf hear and the dumb speak and raise somebody dead to life, that's not the work of man. That's the work of God. Whenever you see a man do God's work, then God is not to come. God is present. He's in the world. He's in that man, and he's working through that man for the benefit of all men. That is the Jesus of the Holy Quran, and that is the Jesus of the Bible. Now, we're not going to fall out over words, because we have studied the meaning of these things. David the psalmist said, ye are all God's children of the Most High God. Stop. What did Jesus say? Or what did David say? Ye are all God's children of the Most High God. He wasn't just speaking to some men, speaking to women and men. Ye are all. Wait, let's go back. He didn't say you are some. See, white folk like to make you think that there's just a few of us can get through their college, and just a few of us can get a degree, and there's just a few of us that can do great things, and the rest of us just happen to be here. So we marvel, I'm the first black to have, I'm the first to have matriculated. You just a fool. Brother, when David said, ye are all God's, then he's saying that each human being has the potential to become a master of self and a master of the laws of creation, that you may determine reality. I'm going to slow down a minute. I didn't say just the brother with the PhD or the sister with the master degree. Every one of us in this audience and every human being on the earth has that kind of potential. That's right. And what the problem is that you have an improper educational, political, social, and economic system that allows some to manifest and kills the majority. So human beings are birthed and die, never having fulfilled their potential to glorify the God of their creation. This is what is sad about this world. So when Jesus comes into the world and you say Jesus is God, yet he's born of a woman, had a birth date. When God is eternal, there's no beginning to God, and there's no ending to God. Jesus was born on a particular day, and they say he died on a particular day. There is no death to God. He's the ever-living. Let's talk about it. Well, how then is Jesus God? Come on, Jesus. Go, man, go. See? That man, that wonderful human being, born of a woman. Well, you say, yeah, well, his father was God. Well, who's your father? You say, well, my father is James Harrison. My father is Luce Lucifer Brown. Lucifer Brown. Let me tell you something. If Jesus had a different father than you have, then why, when the disciples asked him, Master, teach us how to pray, did he teach them to pray on this wise? He didn't say, my Father, which art in heaven. He said, pray like I'm telling you, our Father. Well, if he's Jesus' Father and he's also your Father, what's happened to you? That Jesus could ascend to become master of everything, and you are master of nothing. Talk to me. Somebody has interfered with you and your Father. Somebody has come in between us and our Father, so that the nurturing and the nourishment that should come from a father to a son, or from God to his servant, has been interfered with. Now let's go to the Bible. In the beginning, it says God created man. Now you thought when he created Adam, Adam was just man. But that's not what the Bible says.
No, bring it, minister.
In Genesis, the first chapter, the 26th verse, talks about God made man. How did you make him, God? In our image, after our likeness. Well, why you use a plural possessive?
Bring it.
Since God is only one.
Yeah, bring it, minister.
Or is it two people or more acting in concert, like they usually do with us, conspiracy?
Yeah.
In the 5th chapter of Genesis, he says, male and female created he them and called their name Adam. So Adam is not just man, Adam is man and woman acting as one. And the first thing that God did when he made Adam, look at what he did. He made him first in his image and after his likeness. And then he said, and let us give them power and dominion. That's the answer. What's your problem? I ain't got no power. What's your problem? I ain't got no power. What's your problem? I don't have any dominion. I'm not a ruler. I'm not a controller of my life or the lives of my family. I don't direct my own community life. I have no power to change the reality under which I'm living. But in the beginning, God gave me power and dominion. What happened to the power? What happened to the dominion? You see, when the slave masters brought our fathers into slavery, the first thing they had to take from us in order to make us slaves was the one thing that allows us to be free, and that is power and dominion. And you can't have power, which is the ability to do, without knowledge. And so when God breathed into Adam and he became a living soul, it's not just oxygen coming into the lungs, but the Quran says
He breathed into Adam of his own inspiration. See, when you inhale, it's called inspiring. When you make your final exhale, they call it he expired. So as you take in from your nostrils air, oxygen into the lungs, that starts the activity of the heart and the body. So these two ears, like the nostrils, when you hear the word of God and it enters the ear, it starts the activity of the mind.
Go ahead, minister.
And when God gave Adam power, he gave him knowledge, which gave him the ability to do. Then he gave him control, rulership.
Go ahead, minister.
So when our fathers became slaves, to deprive us of knowledge is to deprive us of the power to generate thought, mind. To deprive us of knowledge is to deprive us of the ability to do.
Teach hard, minister. Teach hard.
Then to take away power from us, and then to take away the right to direct our own lives. Then you going back to your former slave master and his children, begging him to give you the only thing that makes him your superior. He got power to direct his life, and he wants to continue directing our lives. And God said, enough is enough. Your day of ruling us is over. For me to allow myself in my awakened stage to have my life controlled by another human being who has proved that he's not my friend, that he's an enemy to our rise as a people. For me to send my children to be educated by an enemy is to say that I'm a fool and I'm unworthy to be free. For us to be laying around the gates of white people, begging them to do something for us.
Bring it, minister. Bring it.
I can't go to Washington and cry because somebody took away affirmative action. Hell, the enemy has never given you nothing but that which makes you dependent on him. He calls it affirmative action. What the heck is that? Gobbledygook kind of talk. Affirmative action. What kind of action is that? Well, let's see. What is affirmative action? I'm going to allow my Negroes. Yes, I'm going to show you what a good man I am. I'm going to allow my Negroes into my schools and universities so they can imitate me and try to be more white than I am when I confer on them their degree in whiteology. And some of you, when you get your little degree, you try to act more white than the white man. You can't walk in the hood no more. You can't go in the old haunts anymore. Affirmative action. Let me see what I can affirm. Yes, I will let my Negroes into my boardroom. I'm going to make him vice president in my corporation. I ain't going to give him too much stock. So you happy in the boardroom? Slave. See, that's the Lord that giveth. And that Lord that giveth is now taketh away. Blessed be the name of that Lord. Is that your Lord? Let's go march on Pete Wilson and see if Pete is going to take away our affirmative action. Oh, they're going to take away our welfare. Oh, my God. They're going to get us in Medicaid and Medicare. Oh, Lord. So if that's your Lord, then you pray to him. You go and complain to him. But let me tell you something. Ye are all God's children of the Most High God. And before there was a white man ever on the earth, you and your fathers were here saying, be, and it is. Before they got here, where was affirmative action? Before white folk got here, who was handling Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security? Look at how you cheapen yourself.
Bring it, mister, bring it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sister. Thank you. She said the God that has the power is the God that will win in the end. She's all right. Let my sister stay. She's all right. I don't mind having conversation. I'm a talker, but I'm a listener too. But this is my night. Now, I don't want you to think in essence that I'm mocking, but in a way I am belittling our silliness in going to man for what God has already offered you. But listen, when I talked about them hiding the ball, see, what you've been seeking ever since our fathers were made slaves is the power to free yourself.
That's right. That's right.
What you've been seeking is knowledge that will give you the ability to do for yourself and your family and your children. And because those in power told you if you did it this way, you'd get it, you went in all these various directions, and right now you're a little frustrated.
That's right.
But let me go right straight to the point.
Come on, leader.
30 years ago, seemed like we knew who the enemy was.
That's right. That's right.
30 years later, we're very confused because the enemy is looking more and more like us. Because the enemy is looking more and more like ourselves. Somebody said, why are you going to Washington and get all these black men together so white folk can mow us all down? I said, well, brother, y'all seem to be doing a good job of it in the hood. Now, white folk are not killing us, at least overtly, the way we're killing one another. Some of you in this audience who are grandmothers and grandfathers, you hoped that on your deathbed you could see your grandchildren taking advantage of the suffering and sacrifice that you have made, that you could die in peace knowing that you've left your children and grandchildren behind to make a better future for our people. But today, grandmothers and grandfathers are bringing their grandchildren to the cemetery, and the grandchildren are not outliving their grandmothers because death is walking the streets in the hearts and in the heads of our people. Why is this? Now, if you wanna, you can try to blame the government, blame white folk, blame others. But when are we going to mature to accept the responsibility for our actions? Now, have you seen these kind of children that always got somebody else to blame? Well, see, I wouldn't have did that, but he led me that way. See, you are not mature until you are able to look in the mirror at yourself and say, I am responsible for this, and if I change, then I can change this reality or this consequence. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to help us to see why this condition is in our community and what is the way out. Can you hang with me a few more minutes? Now, brothers, can you give me a little space here? Because I think the brothers back here want to see, and everything is fine. I mean, everybody in here been served. Just move on just a little bit more, okay? I know they don't want nothing to happen to me, and I don't blame them. I don't want nothing to happen to them either. But I don't want you to think, I mean, when I look around, I want to see people. And I know you want to look at your brother sometimes. Could you move over just a little bit more? That's it. That's it. Thank you, brother. Now, let's quickly analyze what is happening to us. Do you think, brothers and sisters, that our 400 years in America as slaves, free slaves, and second-class citizens, that God missed it, he didn't see it, he didn't cause his prophets to write about it? Do you think God missed this?
Listen.
If God saw the slaves that were in Egypt, and Egypt is not as great as America. Listen. If God saw the slaves that were in Babylon and wrote about it, and Babylon was not as great as America, how could God have told his prophets to prophesy of the end of the world and miss America? America's in the Bible. England is in the Bible. Russia is in the Bible. Africa is in the Bible. You are in the book. But you're not mentioned as Negroes, colored people, coons and shines and ham bones and nigger. That's not in the book. I mean, they would like to put it in there, but that's just not in the book. So if you're looking for yourself under these pseudonyms, and you won't find yourself.
Go ahead, Minister.
But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the Bible, as well as the Quran, is talking about you. From Genesis to Revelation. From Al-Fatiha to Al-Nas. The books of God are focusing, using historical precedents to give you a picture of something in the last days of great consequence. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, since nobody on earth in recent history that we know of has endured the kind of slavery that we have endured, then we have to look in the scripture and see where is the precedent. You know, doctor, is there a doctor in the house? Doctor, when you see a patient and that patient says, I'm such and such and so and so, you say, well, what's the matter? He says such and such and so and so and so and so. Then what you do immediately when they start talking, you start looking through your mind at history. Oh yeah, I remember a case that was like this. It seems like you have, but we're going to test to be sure. But it seems like you have. Attorney, is there a lawyer in the house? Lawyer, when we come to your office and say, this is my case, the first thing you do is consult the history. And you look and say, well, yes, a case like this was tried in such and such a year before Judge so-and-so, and this is the result of it. So we'll argue from the base of this history. Or we will prescribe a cure from the base of this medical history. What is the history that we can look back to give us some idea of what has been happening with us? Well, if you go back in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, God is saying to Abraham, listen, know of a surety, Abraham, that your seed will be a stranger in a strange land, a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But now he says, after that time, not before, but after, I will come. God talking to Abraham, I'm not going to send nobody, Abraham. I will come. And I will judge that nation which they shall serve. And afterwards shall they come out with great substance and go to their fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. They're not going to die young. They'll be buried in a good old age after they have done some time under oppression. Well, this is Genesis. Then you read in scripture of the children of Israel going into Egypt under Pharaoh. and they suffered and were afflicted 400 years. Jehovah did not send anybody.
That's right.
Jehovah's words were, I have heard your moaning and your groaning because of your taskmaster. And your cries have entered my ears. And I think I will go down now and see whether the cry is altogether what I have heard. He's saying, I'm going to come down from where I am. And I'm going to walk among you and observe with my eyes what you've been suffering. So both the Bible and the Quran, the principal man in both these books is Moses, not Jesus or Muhammad. Because if you don't know Moses, you'll never see Jesus. If you don't know Moses, you'll never see Muhammad. I want you to hear me. If you don't know Moses, you're not going to know what Jesus came to do. You're not going to understand him fully because Moses is a precursor. David is a precursor. The old prophets gave you pictures of Jesus.
Yes, sir.
Moses is mentioned more in the Quran than any other prophet.
That's a fact.
And it's because Moses is a precursor who prefigures Muhammad. All right. Now we're looking at history now to get some bearing.
Come on.
Jehovah came. Moses, according to the Bible, came to a bush that was burning but didn't burn up. And he heard a voice speak to him out of the bush saying, take off your shoes. The ground where you stand is holy. He was frightened. He said, yes, I know, but I'm sending you to Pharaoh. What you sending him to Pharaoh for? I want you to tell Pharaoh that I said, let my people go. Wait now, wait. We've been doing all right under Pharaoh. I mean, he's been rough, you know what I mean, but what you got for us to do? He said, I got a job for you. I'm going to give you a land that I promised through your father Abraham. I got a job for you. I'm going to give you a land that I promised through your father Abraham. He said, now you go and tell Pharaoh. He said, well, who should I tell him sent me? He said, just tell him I am that I am. Moses struck on down. I can see him stepping. He got a little fear in him, but he's obedient, shaking, but he going. And he went to Pharaoh and told Pharaoh, the God of our fathers has said, let the people go. He said, I don't know no other God but me. What kind of God is this you worshiping? I am the Lord here. I run this show. See, and that's the way the modern Pharaoh thinks. I send contraptions out in space. Nigga, didn't you see Apollo 13? even see around the corner. And I got a satellite up there 22,000 miles up looking down, and I can spot a pin. I'm God. I don't know no other God but me. Nigga, bow down. Don't tell me nothing about let you go. Moses went back to God. Pharaoh got so angry, he started saying, look at these children of Israel talking about some God told me to, what? Well, I had them making bricks out of straw. Now I'm going to have them make bricks, and I ain't giving them no straw. So Moses went back and said, Jehovah, I did just what you told me to do. Now this man is making it doubly hard on us. You see, I thought you was going to deliver us. Now these people getting harder on us. He said, don't worry about that. I hardened his heart. Go on back and tell him some more. I got 10 plagues that I'm going to lash him with.
Bring it, mister, bring it.
And at the end of the 10 plagues, the last one was death. Pharaoh said, okay, take them and get out of here. And then his heart got so evil, he said, hell, I ain't gonna let them go.
No, I got to get him.
I'm gonna kill them. And he got his army together. Just at the time of deliverance, he got his army together. And he sent his army. And God delivered Moses and those with him. And then they were out of Egypt, but they were in the wilderness. They wasn't quite where they should go. They was in between this and that. Twixt and tween, some of the old folks would say. But that twixt and tween is something. Because while they were twixting and tweening, they kept saying, hey, Jehovah, wait a minute. You got me out here in this wilderness. What's wrong with you? He said, look, maybe we ought to go back to Egypt.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Things was better with boss. See? And Moses, God told him, said, let them wander in the wilderness till the old ones die out. Who were these old ones? That God didn't want to even see the promised land. Let them die. See, they were in love with Egypt. They still held on to a slave mentality. They were out of Egypt, but they didn't want to come out. They really wanted to go back. Like Lot's wife, enamored with the life of Sodom and Gomorrah. Oh, man. Now, brothers and sisters, when it came time for them to get to the promised land, he sent Joshua and them to spy out the land. I think it was Joshua. And when they came back, they said, hey, there's some giants over there. Said, he gonna send us in a land and people already in the land and they giants? Said, well, what difference does it make? I've given you the land, they giants, go move the giants. Said, well, wait a minute, God. I thought you was gonna make it easy for us. I said, well. And in the Quran, some of them buggers, they told the God, but we ain't going. We're not going until you go and clear them giants out, then we'll go in.
Go ahead, minister.
History says the Exodus took place in the 430th year of their sojourn. Now that's history. Let's see, have we fulfilled it? Now, is it not true that the first slaves, white folks say, in the common history book, they came 1619, 1 year before the Mayflower. But according to what is in the Congressional Library in Washington, the first slaves landed in Jamestown, Virginia in the year 1555 on a ship named Jesus. Now listen. The man who was the captain of that ship is called Sir John Hawkins. Some called him Sir John Hopkins. But he was a great navigator. His father before him was a master of the sea and taught the son how to deceive the Africans out of Africa onto his boat. So now from 1555 to 1619 is 64 hidden years of our history that transformed us from a proud African people into a Negro, a colored boy, or something less. And in that 64 years, your names were taken, your language was taken, your history was taken, your culture was taken, your religion was taken, your God was taken, and you were turned absolutely inside out. They separated the children from the parents so the parents could never teach the children language, culture, history. So you grew up as a people with no root in yourself. So David the psalmist said, let us cut them off from being a nation, that Israel may no longer be remembered in them. They cut us off. So we couldn't remember Africa. We couldn't remember our past, whether it was great or not great. We ought to know our history. And as a tree without roots is dead, a people without the knowledge of their history is what? Dead. Now look, who was God to you? Anytime a human being can tell you, call me Massa. Hello, Massa Johnson. Listen. Massa Wilson. Massa Washington. Yes, Massa. Who is master but God? But when a man can force another man to call him master because that man had the power of life and death over the slave, so he became like a God to us. And for 300 years, these people had churches and they had Bibles, but we couldn't go to church and we couldn't read the Bible. So some of the slaves in the field singing, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there, heaven. And white folk in the church talking about heaven and giving us hell. And the slave was saying, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. They had enough sense to know that you couldn't be that evil. And God permits you into paradise. And so we worship white people. And to enforce the worship, when they let us into the church, they gave us an image of Jesus, which was their own image. Just look at it. Now the Bible teaches you that he had hair like lamb's wool, had feet like burnished stylish brass. But the Jesus that you got on your wall, many of you, looks like the same people that brought our fathers into slavery. Sometimes he's blonde, sometimes he's brunette. I don't know whether they had Clairol in those days, but and every time in the church you say the name Jesus, you genuflect in certain churches. When you say Jesus, you bend your knee and you bow your head because Jesus is Lord, Jesus is Master, but the subliminal suggestion is that the white man is Lord and the white man is Master. So when you meet him, you don't meet him as an equal human being. You meet him and you start bending and bowing and scratching and scraping. Y'all all right? Come on. Brothers and sisters, I better move quickly because I don't want to keep you long. Excuse me. Brothers and sisters, from 1555 to 1955 is what? 400 years. The book says after that time, God is going to come. And the judgment of this nation would begin. And afterwards, we shall come out. Look at the words. Come out with great substance. From 1955, check the record. 57, 58, Martin Luther King arises. Listen. 57, 58, 59, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad also come to national public acclaim and attention. Are you with me? Now why is this activity, this civil rights activity now bursting on the scene in the late 50s and the early 60s? Because you had done your time. Your time was up, and now God is calling you. Go ahead, minister, go ahead. But you know the Bible teaches the harvest is ripe. But what? The laborers are what? Any of you been on a farm? When the harvest is ripe, and you only have a few laborers, what happens to the fruit that's on the vine or the vegetables that are in the ground? What happens? They rotten. Look at the black community today. Is it rotten? Why did the community go rotten? Listen to your brother. We were ripe in the late 50s and 60s for freedom. We were ripe to be liberated from Pharaoh's mentality to come into the mind and spirit and kingdom of God. But the leadership. Wait a minute now, leaders, listen. See, the leadership was so in love with Pharaoh. Are you listening to me? See why you love Malcolm today, right? How many of you love Malcolm? Raise your hand. See? How could you love Malcolm and Malcolm was telling you come out? And you trying to run back in?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
See something maybe you don't understand. See, the slave don't want to come out from his master. He want to get in. Master, can I get closer? I ain't gonna leave you, master, not me.
And while the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the more nationalistic mentality among our people, starting from Garvey and Noble Drew Ali and others, were saying to you, come out. Come out. Our brothers and sisters who were the educated, listen. They were saying, come out and go where? That's right. That's right. We ain't going on with no bunch of Negroes no place. And they started begging the white man to let them in. Now check this. We had freedom rides. Yes. The people were right. They wanted to do something for liberation. That's right. Yes. Come on, let's get on a bus and ride. Yes. So they burned the bus. We want to do something for liberation. Come on, let's wade in, let's kneel in, let's march in. Okay. When we started marching, we thought we were marching and the people we were looking to open the door for us, they would be humane when our women and our children marched with us. Listen up. And so in the civil rights struggle, you all know, you put your women out there thinking that white folk was going to respect the fact that these were your women and children. And what did they do? They beat our women down. They beat our children down. They sick dogs on our women and our young men. They cattle prodded them. They bombed churches while we were praying. So the advancement that we have today is on the blood and the sweat and the tears of many women and children who suffered so that we might have a voting rights bill, a public accommodations bill. But those of us who lived in the South, we were forced by segregation to do for ourselves. And the moment white folks said we could come in and spend our money with them, our hotels closed, our motels closed, our insurance companies closed, our oil companies closed, our bus companies closed down. So you came out of the South with a tradition to do for yourself. And you became a beggar at the foot of your slave master's children. And so white folk let you in. Now you can sleep in all the hotels and motels. Big deal. Now we have black mayors, black congressmen, black senators, black sheriffs, black this, black that, black the other. And what's your condition? You're worse now than you were because ripe has turned to rotten. Leadership. You didn't guide your people right. Is this a mic? Testing. Put some juice on this thing. Give it some power. To our leaders, they meant well, but they had a slave mentality. To our preachers, you meant well, but your mind was baptized in a white theological framework. And so you didn't want to leave your white Jesus for a black Jesus. Now let's talk, man. Let's talk about it. We got happy. Start marrying the slave master's daughter. We got happy to walk down the street with the daughter of our former tormentors. Beauty and the Beast. Which one is beauty and which one is the beast? He let you in his schools and he gave you African studies,
black studies. White boy teaching you about black history. It's an insult when this Johnny come lately. How the hell does he know our beginning and don't know his own? I'm not trying to be funny or smart, but because the leadership was blind, Jesus said, if the blind lead the blind, both fall in the ditch. So none of us in leadership can disavow the condition of our people and say it's them. Mothers, you can't say, I don't know what got into my children. We never had a generation like this, but it came from you. How are you going to condemn the fruit and you the tree that produced it? Kind of rough, ain't it? It's kind of rough. You say, I don't know what's getting into these young people. They're just cold and heartless, killing each other like nothing. They ain't got no respect for life. That's what's wrong with them. Well, what about you, mama? When your womb is filled with unwanted life, what do? See, government has made it easy to destroy the fruit of the womb. Yes, you want to go on with your college. Yes, you have plans, and this pregnancy is unwanted and it interferes with your plans. Well, that's the way the gangbanger feels when the brother from the other block comes in and messes with his girl, got his cap on wrong. You interfering in my community, I'm gonna pop you. So if he's wrong for popping his brother, how wrong can we be for killing the fruit of our womb, which is the answer to our prayers? My mother, when she got pregnant with me, it was under some strange circumstances. And my mom tried 3 times, as she told me, to get rid of me. And God didn't let it happen. Wait. I'm saying something. When my mother was on her deathbed, she was staying with me, and one of the Sundays I was getting ready to go out to speak, and I went to visit her in her room, and she was there in the bed, and she was cradling her womb. And she says she thanked God that he didn't permit her to abort my life. And she begged God to forgive her for the attempt. I'm not suggesting to any sister in this audience who has had an abortion or is contemplating one that you are some terrible sinner. Please don't think that. Because you do what you do when you don't think wisely and in the way of God. And so in whatever sin is in the past, it's in the past, and God didn't come to punish you for that. He really came to forgive. So I don't want any woman in here, any sister in here who's had an abortion to get these pangs of guilt now, because God has forgiven you. But like Jesus said when the woman was caught in adultery and he told her, go and sin no more, you have to understand the extreme value of your womb, sisters. You just not some ordinary thing. Every female is sacred. Every female is sacred.
Your womb is the laboratory where God works with you to bring forth the wise men, the sages, the prophets, the scientists that alter the course of history. Every prayer that you pray for deliverance will be answered from the womb of a woman. So never, ever, ever allow anyone to access your womb who is unworthy. Now I'm saying that because a killer mentality is in parents today. And you don't think anything about flushing this out. And then you grieve over the killing in the community. There are mothers in this audience whose daughters come to you and they're pregnant. And they may be 14, they may be 15. Yes, it's not good. Yes, your thinking is their life is ruined. But God is the author of life. And I know someone in this audience today who had a problem like that. They had a daughter, and the daughter conceived, and she was just 15 or 16, and she was getting ready to come out of high school, and it was so disturbing in the family when they found out she was pregnant. And I'm sure the thought came up, well, let's get an abortion, that we cannot afford to have this child's future destroyed. But somehow or another, God prevailed. And they said, well, sweetheart, you go on and have this child because you are now responsible for your actions. She had the child. The child is a literal genius. And that child has brought more joy to the mother, more joy to the grandparents, and hope in us that a child like that can help change the future of a suffering people. So don't you judge what you can't see. You don't know what the future is. So please, if you're pregnant in this audience tonight, listen to me. If you're pregnant, sister, right now, and you had an appointment for an abortion, I'm saying to you, as God is my witness, what you are carrying in your womb is sacred. And your womb is blessed. And if you are not unhealthy and you carry that baby to term, no matter what it appears, the consequences will be. I can pledge to you tonight in the name of God that your child will be a blessing to you and a blessing to your family. And those who told you to abort it will thank God that you decided you wouldn't do it. May God bless you and bless the womb of our nation to produce a little Jesus again, a little Moses again, a little Abraham again, a little Hannibal again, a little Toussaint Louverture again. Because the scripture says he's going to pour out his spirit on you without number, and you will see the old prophets walking around, and they're going to come from your wombs. And afterwards shall you come out with great substance. And now let's wrap this up. I don't want nobody to go. Don't go. Just hear this ending. And now, rotten has gone down into the community. And you know when rotten crop, rotten fruit goes into the earth it enriches the earth. And the earth being enriched brings up a new and a better crop than the first one that was ripe. Well, rotten have turned to ripe. The community is ripe again. And now leadership must not fail the community in this hour, or leadership will be punished by God, because you know better today. Now, why a march on Washington? We call it a day of atonement and reconciliation. What does all that mean? Every man that's in this house, brothers, we have to atone to God for our failure to accept the responsibility that God gave us to be the heads of our families, the maintainers and providers for our women and our children, the protectors of our homes and our community, and the builders of our community. God gives that to us as men. And to the degree that we have not accepted that responsibility, we have to atone. We have to reconcile ourselves now to God, because He's displeased. That's why your community catching hell. God is upset with you. And listen now, listen. And brothers, we have got to atone to God for the way we have misused and abused our women and our girls. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I don't want the sisters to raise your hand, but if I could just get a sound from you to let me know. I've been in audiences all over this country, and the thing that has surprised me and shocked me is how many women and girls have been abused by their fathers, by their uncles, by their grandfathers. Are there any in this audience like that? See how quiet it gets? But there's a lot of sisters in here that have been abused. And I want to say this to us as men and to the sisters. Whenever a girl, a young girl, is abused, what has happened to her is you have interfered with what God has put within her to give as comfort, as consolation, as quiet of mind to the man that she would ultimately love and marry. That's right. You have cut off the heaven that God put in woman for man. And even when that girl marries, she can hardly give what is in her because she's so hurt and scarred from what has happened to her when she was a little girl. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, brothers, I don't know how many of you saw that picture, Color Purple. See, a black woman wrote the base of that, if I'm understanding it correctly. And she wrote that because she suffered that. And when that was put on the screen, that was a put down to all of us as men. We felt that. In the audience, the people were happy when Whoopi was about to cut that man's throat. You remember? They were saying, cut it, cut his throat, kill him. And we were in the audience, I was in the audience looking at it, and I said, now this one is against all of us as men. I saw the picture of the sister that sings, Tina Turner. How many of you saw that picture? Now, I don't know Ike, and I don't know Tina, but this is the area around which they grew up. Is it right? St. Louis. And you know, when that man was whooping that poor sister in the movie, people grew to hate, but they didn't just hate Ike. That hatred fell on every one of us as men because it was like us beating Tina. And if you saw boys in the hood and menace to society, when these young brothers are popping people and laughing and whatnot, see, this is against us all over the world now. We have been set up for slaughter. Black men. Now, when I was a young boy, black men didn't have guns. A switchblade, then later a zip gun, but you didn't have no real firepower. What you got now? A lot of you in this audience got guns. Big guns, automatic weapons. And how do you feel when you got your gun? You feel like, I mean, you can't keep that leg still, you know what I mean? You just feel power. And I saw a young brother on TV, they were questioning him and said, well, how do you feel when you have your gun? He said, I feel powerful because I got the power of life and death. Now think about that. Here's a man that can't nurture life, and he can make it, and he can never bring it back, and all he has to do is squeeze a trigger, and a human being is gone from this world to never come back again. I mean, that's a lot of power, but that's not the power and the dominion that God wanted to give you. A gun in no sense. See, white folk now put the gun in your hand, and you know he's terrified of you being armed, but he's arming you today for what? Because tomorrow, when your own leaders say, bring the National Guard, we can't control the crime and the violence anymore, then they roll into the black community with tanks. And then that little mess that you got in your hand that you call a pop gun that gave you power, when you really see what power is, then you gonna bow down to the white man again and say, he's God. What's the way out? Atonement. What does it mean? Look at the word. Atonement. I wish I had a blackboard, but it's okay. Can you see the word? A-T-O-N-E-M-E-N-T. Those of you who study ancient African history of what we call Kemet, ancient Egypt, who was the great one God in Kemet? Aton. And in the word atonement, you get the name of the God of ancient Egypt, the one God, Aton. If you take it a little further, you get a tone. A tone, T-O-N-E. Tone is sound, but a tone is the sound of A. Anybody that knows the scale, when an orchestra is tuning up, it tunes up by the A tone. Oh man, I want you to follow me now. It tunes up by the A tone. And the A has 440 vibrations. Listen. If orchestra can't begin until they tune up. And they tune up by the 8-tone with God at tone. The one God. Look at this now. And A is 440 vibrations. How long have we been in America? This is the 440th year of our sojourn. So when we call for a day of atonement, if we all stop vibrating to the atonement or the 8-tone from atom, then we are ready now to make a new beginning. Then you have the word in atonement, at one. At one. What's your problem? No unity. If you can become at one with the one God at the A-tone, making a new beginning in the 440th year of our sojourn, then we who call for atonement are on time. We're doing the right thing at the right time. Now, as we conclude, it's not only atonement, but reconciliation. We're reconciling differences. Did you see how Dr. Betty Shabazz and Brother Farrakhan sat down together? That's atonement. 30 years of pain and anguish, but we made an A-tone. We vibrated and we began to change realities. Isn't that wonderful? Is there somebody that you need to reconcile? What about mama? If you're a daughter and you fell out with your mother, fell out with your dad, fell out with some member of your own family, your brother, your sister, in a time of atonement and reconciliation, you got to make a call. And you got to try and get it together. Every son and every daughter must get it together with mama. And even though dad may not have been there for you, he didn't do too much. Maybe he didn't do anything. Give him a call and say, Dad, I just want to tell you, I forgive and I thank you for being the source of my life. I can't judge you, because the scripture teaches me to honor my mother and my father, that my days may be long. And so I'm not your judge, only God is, but I want to thank God for you, because without you, I could not have been. I don't know what's between you and mama, but I know without you and mama, I wouldn't be here. I'd like to meet you, Dad, and sit down and talk. And you know what? You'll be surprised. Since we're in the right time and things are vibrating better today than at any other time, the time is ripe to reconcile differences. You would never have believed that we, who have been accused of the murder of Malcolm, could sit down with a wife who sat and watched her husband. Her eyes. But it's the time. And when we sat down, because her daughter Kubila gave us a chance. And there are incidents right now that's giving you a chance to go home and get it together with family, with friends. But we got to do it now, because we're going to face an enemy, and we got to face this enemy as a solid wall. 1 million black men going to Washington, D.C.,
1 million black men standing tall, sober, strong, disciplined, committed to say to the world, I'm a new black man, making a new beginning. And as God made man, he's making me all over again in his image and in his likeness. How many of you will go to Washington with us? Would you raise your hand, black man? I want to ask our sisters, do you support us in atonement for what we have done to you and make a new beginning for our families? Let me see your hands. Now listen, sisters and brothers, don't leave just yet. Some of us can't make it to Washington. What are you going to do here in St. Louis? Here's what we want to do. We are not going to participate in a racist system for one day. On that day, we are declaring it a holy day. We're not going to school that day. We're not going to work that day. We're not going to shop in the mall that day. We're not going to the liquor store that day. We're not going to use any drugs that day. We're not going to do any unclean thing that day. That day we're coming back to God. That day we're petitioning God to give us power again to direct our lives. And if you're a football star in high school, you don't play that day. If you're a football star in college or in the pro, you don't play that day. If you're a basketball player, you don't play that day. If you're a baseball player and it's World Series, you don't play that day. Let white folk play that day and let them see how America look with no black folk in it. We don't sing the blues that day. We don't play no horn that day. We don't do no dance that day. Not for white folk. But everything we do that day is going to be a praise of God. Now look, brothers, sisters. We have $433 billion. There's 365 days in a year. 433 billion coming into our hands. If we don't spend no money for one day, we deprive this economy of well over $1 billion. Think about it. Now, do you think you can be disciplined enough to shop a few days before? And on that day, we ain't buying nothing. If we need toilet paper, get a leaf. And sisters, when you stay home that day, bring your children home and sit your children down and talk about the value of family and the value of each other. And if you can remember anything I said today, make them to know that they are all God's and they all have something that they can give and do that nobody else can do better than they. Brothers and sisters, if you do this and then let the churches stay open, and if you got a disagreement with somebody in your church, after you do that home thing, go on to the church and meet the person in church and say, let's talk it over. Because Christ don't want a Christian to be angry and evil and hateful to a fellow Christian. Allah does not want a Muslim to be evil and hateful to another Muslim. Come on. So we know there are differences. Go and reconcile them. And then the next day it's a stronger church, a stronger mosque, a stronger temple, a stronger NAACP, a stronger urban league, a stronger nation of Islam. But we got to reconcile our differences.
And look, the day after, when you go back, white folk be looking at you. Because see, at the airport, if there ain't nobody to carry white folk bags, well, where's the porter? I'm late for my plane. Where's the porter? You got a porter yourself. Imagine ain't nobody cleaning for white folk. Ain't nobody cooking for white folk. Ain't nobody singing for white folk. Ain't nobody drunk and making a nuisance for white folk to put you in jail. Then the next day, white folks say, oh, hell. We got trouble on our hands. These Negroes look like they're going to get together. And I'm telling you, you mighty and beautiful brothers and sisters, God has put you in the greatest position that any oppressed people could be in. You are in the house of the world ruler, and you have learned and mastered every art and science in the house of your oppressor. And now with your unity, you and you alone can free Africa. You can free the Caribbean. You can free all third world nations, because if you learn how to leverage your 40 million people and your $433 billion, you got juice. And then you can say to the government what policies America should adopt for Africa, for the Caribbean. You can change reality. You are God's. And so is in my conclusion. It says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. That's the precondition that we got to do for God to come to us and make us victorious. We got to humble ourselves. I don't care how big you are in the sight of God. We're just a flea, a speck of dust, a moment in time. We come and we're going. But God is forever, so let's not get too happy over your wealth and over your so-called power, because when death comes, you leave it all behind for somebody else to argue about. Can't take nothing with you. So let's be humble. No matter how big you are, let's look at ourselves as we really are, small in the sight of God. So let's humble ourselves and then pray. Each of you have a manner of prayer. We need to turn back to God, and we need to call on him and ask him to forgive us. We do. We need to seek his face, meaning seek his pleasure. Do the thing that you know would please God, and then turn from your wicked way. Whatever you're doing that you know God don't like, just make up in your mind, say, well, I'm going to change that. I ain't got to destroy my wonderful body with alcohol. I'm going to change that. I don't have to smoke no cigarette. I'm going to change that. I don't have to use no drugs. I'm going to change that. And the moment you make up your mind, it's done. And when you turn, and I turn, and we turn, then God turns to us. And when he sends his spirit down on us as a people, I'm telling you, just think with me, 1 million brothers in Washington. The Spirit of God coming down on us as we atone to him. We ain't going there to pray to the government. That's over. That's over. We're going there to proclaim Exodus. that we're going to come out of a slave mentality. We're going to come out of false worship of a false master. We're going to come out of a system that is decadent and become the foundation of a new world that God is going to make, starting with the people who have suffered 400 years in bondage. You got a great future. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto all of us as I greet you in peace. Thank you, St. Louis. Assalamu alaikum.
Brothers and sisters, please do not leave. We want to stay for prayer. We're going to ask the minister to say a prayer for us and for St. Louis. So please hold your place. Don't forget, we didn't have enough brothers and sisters to take collections in certain quarters I just found out. They will be outside so that you can give that donation that I was talking about earlier. So please hold your place and join us as Minister Farrakhan says the closing prayer. Don't forget there's a special edition of the Final Call newspaper on the Million Man March. All of the information that you need on the march is found in this special edition. And don't just buy one for yourself, but for your neighbor, your loved ones, your friends, your sons or daughters who may be away that are not here tonight. Make sure you get a copy on your way out. Don't forget the tape of tonight's lecture will be available. It's being high-speed duplicated right now. Be patient with the lines. The brothers will get them right out. Now, Minister Farrakhan will say a prayer for us. Thank you very much.
Brother Akbar, this paper is a special edition. The paper usually goes for $1. It is $2. But listen, this $2, part of it will go to finance the Million Man March. All the marches we've had in the past, we've asked white corporations and philanthropic associations to give us help. This is the first time that we as black people will have a march, and we will be the ones paying for this ourselves as a sign of our liberation. I want to thank Brother Anthony Shaheed. Where's Brother Anthony Shaheed? Come up front, Brother Anthony. Brother Anthony Shaheed and his wonderful group that's called the Tawheed Youth Group. And this is my Muslim brother. He's a follower of Imam Waratuddin Muhammad. And we love him and appreciate him and thank him for his hard work with the Tawheed Youth Group, working in St. Louis to quell crime and violence and bloodshed. Let's give Brother Anthony Shaheed applause.
Thank you, Allah.
Thank you, Allah. It's right.
Allahu Akbar.
Bless you, man. Love you, man. Love you. Thank you. And I want to say, before I say prayer, I thank Allah for our mayor. Now, I remember his father, Freeman Boswell. Bosley, I'm sorry. Boswell. Well, he's well, all right. Boss is well. But years ago, he wanted that office and ran for it, as you remember. And what a blessing that his son was able to capture that with your help. Now, he couldn't do it without your help, and he won't be able to stay there except with your help. Now listen, brothers and sisters, a black mayor is not the panacea for our ills. All that mayor can do is help to create an environment that we must work in unity to make progress in. He can't do it all for us. You understand that, don't you? I had the privilege of meeting with him today in his office and met a lot of his wonderful staff. And I want to say to the mayor and to all those who serve him, please, brothers and sisters, know that the enemy is watching. And what they let their own people get away with, they will never let us get away with. So we got to dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and be righteous. Because only our righteousness is going to keep the enemy off of us, but he'll even trump up charges against us. Who's the comptroller? Is he here? Yeah, they're on the comptroller's case. A black man over the money. And they're trying to make us think he's a criminal. And they've been after him for a long time, I understand. Well, we're going to come down here when his trial comes up. And I'm going to sit in the courtroom when his trial comes up. But we want to make sure that our brother gets justice. Now, you know, OJ had to pay a lot of money for justice. But you out here don't have that kind of money. That poor brother has paid an awful lot of money to these high-powered attorneys, and they fighting like crazy. Did you hear the latest revelation? The policeman who said he never used the nigger word has been niggering it up all over the place. So they want the judge to hear his tapes because he talks about how they beat niggers, torture niggers. This is his language. Many of them are like this. But you know what? If we stop killing each other, we could stop them from killing us overnight. You agree? Then all the brothers in here tonight who are members of street organizations that are called gangs, brothers, don't kill your brother over nothing like his cap or his color or where he lives. That's not a good enough reason to take any human being's life. His life is sacred. Your life is sacred. So I guess I would like to close by thanking Brother Minister Donald. Come out here, Minister. Minister Donald and a lot of the old soldiers that I see in front of me that helped me when we were just getting started. Brother Akbar spoke my sentiments. I can never forget you, and I will always carry you in my heart, because I know that without you, we wouldn't be where we are today. And the mosque is not a building. The mosque or the church or the temple or the synagogue, I love you too. The mosque is in you. If the word is in you, then the church is in you, and the mosque is in you, and the temple is in you. And the scripture says, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So if you just put the word in, you got the power now. Oh, I can't wait till October 16th. We got 7 weeks from tonight. 7 weeks. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Chavis. And thank you, Reverend C.V. Smith. Reverend C.V. Smith, we're going to meet tomorrow with pastors and community leaders at Reverend Smith's church tomorrow morning, talking about the Million Man March. Man, I'm so happy with you tonight. I see my brothers who are followers of the Honorable Noble Drew Ali. And I want to thank you, brothers, for your stand for that great and righteous man who was the first man to bring Islam to us in North America. We are grateful for Noble Drew Ali.